America's economy relies on a safe and sound banking system that can provide for the credit needs of our households and businesses. We are concerned about depositors and are focused on trying to meet their needs.
They need to take decisive action.
Because time's ticking here.
Time is ticking, and it's by Monday morning.
All right, big news. It is Monday morning. The federal government announcing it will take emergency action to protect the banking system and backstop deposits after two banks failed within a matter of days over the weekend. Meanwhile, President Biden expected to address Americans this morning as concerns about a bailout continue to grow. The president set to speak at any minute. We will go there as soon as he begins his address. Joining us now for more on what happened over the weekend, author and wealth expert Carrie Carbonaro and business and markets analyst and Newsmax contributor Seth Denson. Great to have you both on. Seth, to you first. So I'm sure there are people waking up this morning that completely missed this over the weekend. But between Friday and today, two failed banks. Seth, do you think there are more, or is this limited to these two relatively small banks?
No, these are relatively small banks, Rob, but I do think that there will likely be more that found that they have been over-leveraged, that the Fed's massive rate hikes in a very quick basis killed the bond market that they were invested in. And then you couple that with a receding economy where more businesses are taking out deposits to make payroll and do other things. Unless these banks are well diversified, we could have a problem. Now, the unique thing about these two banks is they were heavily involved in the tech and crypto sector, but there may be others. So we'll just have to wait and see.
Okay. Carrie, to you, do you think, in your opinion, your expert opinion, that the U.S. banking system is safe and secure? And do you expect a sell-off at 9:30 when the stock market opens here in the United States?
Well, as of right now, we do have the futures up, so we are going to have to wait and see what happens. But as far as the banking system goes, the FDIC was established in 1933 for exactly this reason, to secure our deposits, to make sure that our money is safe in the bank, and that preventing bank runs from happening. So what's ironic is this actually did happen. However, all the insured deposits and the uninsured deposits are actually covered. So that's the great news from this.
Okay, let's take a listen to former FDIC chair on the situation with these two banks.
Almost all of our bank failures during the great financial crisis, we had about 400 of them. We did purchase an assumption. We sold a failed bank to a healthy bank. And usually the healthy acquirer would also cover the uninsured because they wanted the franchise value of those large depositors. So optimally, that's the best outcome. The problem is this was a liquidity failure. It was a bank run. So they didn't have time to prepare to market the bank. So they're having to do that now and playing catch up.
All right, so Seth, that's the former FDIC chair talking about the situation back in 2008. That was taxpayer money. George W. Bush was president, happened right before a presidential election, might have cost John McCain ultimately and Sarah Palin that election. What happens here? Is taxpayer money used again?
It is. I mean, in a roundabout way, right? So what's happening is these banks are able to go access money from the Fed. Well, guess what? The Fed is printing money. And so we have an inflationary problem already. We're now putting more money into circulation to bail these banks out. I know they're not calling it a bailout, but let's call a spade here. And that's going to inflate the inflationary issue, and it's going to be done on the back of the taxpayers. The interesting point of those bigger banks, and you've just made it, Rob, in 2008, the money they got to buy those smaller banks from us, from the taxpayers. And so we made those that made bad decisions bigger. And unfortunately, we're seeing it in some ways repeat here.
Okay, so Carrie, by bailing out these banks, isn't the government rewarding bad behavior, bad investments? What kind of precedent does this set moving forward?
Unfortunately, it's not a good one, and we don't want them to do this. We don't want anybody to profit from this, and certainly not the American taxpayers to be paying for this. So I think that they should not be doing that. They should definitely do the stop losses and guarantee those depositors. But the banks themselves should not be profiting from this at all.
Seth, you said you do expect more banks to fail. Do you expect that to happen sooner rather than later?
I think that if they're going to, it will happen sooner rather than later because the bloom is off the rose. And what's going to happen now is a lot of these people who have their deposits and corporations that have their deposits in the banks are going to start looking at their diversification. Where are they making their investments and who's using them? And so I don't think that we see the 400 that we saw in 2008 by any means, but I think that there might be a couple more out there that rise up and you start to see that people that are putting their money in these banks go, yeah, you know what? Don't really like it all that much. I think I'm going to get out.
Seth, what do you make, just a quick follow, the CEO of SVB, the Silicon Valley Bank, apparently handed out, Wall Street bonuses, big money to employees, and then sold a bunch of his stock before the government went in there and took over. What do you make of that? To me, that's 2008, 2009 all over again. Yeah,
and guess how many executives from Wall Street went to jail in 2008, 2009?
Yeah, Bernie Madoff?
One. Not one. Outside of those Ponzi schemes like Bernie, right? And so, listen, this is likely criminal, but does it mean that they'll be prosecuted? No, because they probably had good attorneys that helped them figure out a way to do it. It's a shame, and it certainly is wrong. Whether or not they'll ever be held accountable, who knows?
All right, we'll leave it there. Carrie, Seth, thank you so much for breaking that down. We are waiting for the president to speak. We expect that to happen at any moment. Interesting, by the way. Carrie, just a comment on the timing of the president's speech this morning. So he typically doesn't speak at 8 o'clock Eastern time. He's doing so, I assume, before the markets open to try and calm the markets down. Is that your take?
Absolutely, 100%.
Okay. He's already late.
Nothing calls anything better than Joe Biden.
Yeah, I was going to say. And he's running about 8 minutes late. We're keeping a close eye on the podium. As soon as he gets there and starts to speak, we will go there. Thank you, Carrie, Seth. Appreciate it.